What an incredible October for Bitcoin. In October, as any other October, most Octobers in Bitcoin are great. But how are Novembers? What can we expect? What we have over here is the Bitcoin chart month to date. A very nice, almost constant increase in price. 27.5% is so far the performance. Of course, a lot of that performance had been fueled by the ETF. The rumors around the ETF hasn't yet been launched. Maybe those rumors will continue in the next month. Have a look at this table over here. This shows us the different years, the recent year being at the top, the first year for Bitcoin, 2010 here at the bottom, and then each column is the month of the year. So you can see whether or not Bitcoin has some cyclicality to it, as in, does it tend to go up during certain months and does it tend to go down during certain months? August and September tend to be very, very weak. We barely have seen any positive months. The rest of the year tends to be stronger, with especially Q4 being the strongest. We've entered Q4 with October of the year. This is our recent performance, and November tended to be quite strong as well. It wasn't necessarily great in the last 2 years, right? We are in a bear market, but maybe this is now turning around. Maybe if we see November and December being strong now, the bear market could potentially be over, and there are more potential signs for that. For example, have a look at the crash in open interest. This orange line here went down massively. Now, what's open interest? Open interests are bets that are being made on the side. So if you don't want to buy Bitcoin directly, you simply just want to bet on it, maybe with leverage to go up or with leverage to go down, then you can open up futures. Now, whenever you open up a futures position, you open interest. The more betting on the price is going on, the more erratic the price can potentially move, because some players have to hedge their positions. Also, if there's a lot of open interest in a particular position, it might make sense to at least temporarily manipulate the price against that. So you take the counter position of where currently the open interest is. We see this pretty strongly, for example, right now with the Teller token. The open interest financing there is 2% per day. So if you want to short the Teller token, you have to pay 2% per day. So it's very likely that the whales are buying up the token, pushing it up. So a lot of open interest means a lot of price manipulation, means a lot of potential very erratic movements. Now open interest is very low for Bitcoin. And that means that further price action is probably going to be not too volatile, but rather a steady growth. Ideally, you don't want to look at Bitcoin just with a 1 month time horizon, right? The idea is to just buy and hold Bitcoin. And if you need something for speculation, take something more volatile, take an altcoin, take a more inefficient market. Within crypto, Bitcoin is probably the most efficient market. So if we take that longer term stance, we can check how many Bitcoin are being held by long-term holders, by people that have held Bitcoin for at least a year, that haven't moved their Bitcoin for at least a year. That's this orange line over here. And this is now very, very high. 70% roughly of all of Bitcoin haven't moved in the last year. And this is positive because it means the liquidity of Bitcoin is drying up. That means whoever is now buying Bitcoin is going to push up the price quite a lot. Look at this, for example, here in 2016, when the 1 year hodl wave was at historical highs in the historical context. Bitcoin liquidity had been tight. That's when the next rally appeared. And then the long-term holders sold into that rally, right? That's then when the Bitcoin moved from the long-term holders to the short-term holders. Once the Bitcoin was with the short-term holders, that's when the price peaked and when it then collapsed. Another all-time high in the 1 year hodl wave, and Bitcoin was at roughly 10K. So in 2021, and again, Bitcoin could then 6 to 7x from there. Now, again, the hodl wave is very high. Bitcoin is very tight, very illiquid. This would indicate that if we zoom out beyond just 1 month, that we're very likely going to see further rising prices. Nobody has a crystal ball, right? We all just make our educated guesses, but this is at least what this chart here implies. I also like to look at the degree of speculation, because here we also see very nice cycles. Whenever there's very little speculation, and the prices tend to be low. Whenever there's a lot of speculation, prices tend to be high. Now we can measure that by comparing how much trading activity is happening in the wallets that are active within the last 1 to 2 weeks versus the wallets that are active in the last 1 to 2 years. That's measured over here. That's the realized hodl ratio. So again, very nicely going up and down and up and down, pretty much always bouncing between the extremes. And again, this would imply, if history is any indication, that we could get closer to this red line, that we have already seen the bottom in Bitcoin and that we are now off for the races. Another measure is the MVRV Z-score, market value to realized value Z-score. So here we look at the current price relative to the realized price. So what is the price that in aggregate the market has paid? The recent price is always just the last transaction, right? When we look at the aggregate, all of Bitcoin's wallets, when have they last time transacted? To what kind of price? We get a very special moving average. That's the realized value. We can put this into relationship to the volatility of the price. Then we get the market value to realized value Z-score. That's this line. Again, this is bouncing quite nicely. It shows extremes quite nicely. And here we are getting out of this recent trough. So of course I'm a Bitcoin bull, this is the Bitcoin strategy channel, but I have looked at exactly these charts way back in the past as well. 1 year ago, 2 years ago, feel free to check out those videos as well. They are pretty good indications of where we currently are in the cycle. Nobody knows if we're suddenly going to crash or not. I don't necessarily see this coming, right? There's only positive news very likely going to come up with the ETF approval. But yeah, I'm not a fortune teller either. I can just tell you what I do. I continuously dollar cost average into Bitcoin every month. I get more and more exposure over time. And I simply just bet on this long-term adoption growth curve to continue. It's nice to know that in the historical context, Novembers seem to be very strong. But even if we don't appreciate until the end of the year, that's fine for me. I'm looking for the long term. If you're in it for the ride, feel free to join us in Telegram. Link is down below.